Yeah.
Yeah, I always stuck like the calendar because it's on my email on my phone, so it'll sync to my calendar.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
So I
need it. There's something
easy. The calendars.
Oh, to yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting. They ended with today's meeting.
During the days.
Because I have them.
Sir, I couldn't dress.
I'm sure they used to be. I'm sure that I just lost them.
Mama, you lost them somehow. I'll resend them to you because it.
I've had problems.
I'll have to check.
Once you get the IT gremlins, you're kind of.
I can't sync my card.
Oh, you stepped on it.
Yes. And I'm going to load all the drivers with the away.
It wasn't me, I swear.
Should have known better too. Sorry. Are we ready then? I guess I can go ahead and
1 second.
open up the.
Let me go ahead and.
Go ahead and open up the meeting for March 12th, 2026. The board had a closed session just a moment ago with nothing to report and directed staff accordingly on conference with legal counsel. So with that, why don't we go ahead and quickly, I see that all directors are present with the exception of Director Tran, who has an excused absence. And if you would please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I'd like to open it up for public comment. This is an opportunity for public to speak on any item that's not on tonight's agenda. Do we have any?
We don't have any public comment.
Okay, then I will go ahead and close the public comment and move on to item 4, reports and presentations, starting with Michelle.
Yeah.
GM report.
General manager's report. So I have attached general manager's report in your packet. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things. One being that today we had a very successful St. Patrick's Day lunch at the senior center. The senior center staff made a lovely lunch of Irish stew and Bailey's cheesecake, and they had rave reviews. They for the chateau room, so kudos to them. It was lovely. And we also have the both the traditional icon and the underwater icon coming up here at the end of March. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about that. The traditional icon doesn't require any registration. People can just come on out. It will start at 10 a.m. sharp for the massive dive on eggs as fast as you can. And then there is a small registration fee for the underwater egg hunt, which is a little more controlled. They have lots of activities, and since it's apparently going to be 90 degrees, the way our weather's going, it'll be a beautiful day to hop in the pool. So that is exciting. And then also kudos to the park staff for getting everything ready for PHBA. And I know Kathleen was out there. Adding or doing toilet paper and all of the other things that day. So kudos to staff and thank them for that. And thanks to the board members who were able to walk in the parade. So it was very nice for us to support PHB in that way. So with that, I'll take any questions.
No questions? The traditional icon, it's still like in waves, isn't it? Like they don't they ever?
I believe it's still in waves, but we have a start time, so because we get people who show up late, and there's a start time.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah, no questions or comments. Then we can go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Item 5 as they approve the bills and warrants to be paid. These are intended to be enacted with one motion unless someone wants to pull something from the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent calendar pass. I'll move on to tonight's action items, starting with 6.1. To accept the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2025, as presented by the district's independent auditors.
Yeah, so I'd like to ask Vicky to come on up, and then Lisa as well, in case we have any questions. So Vicky, have a seat. In front of the, I wanted to go through the staff report. So I didn't realize till today, so I apologize. That there was a staff report that went along with your annual comprehensive financial report, mostly just to tell you about the change in format. So in the past, the district has done just its basic financial statements. So we've done just the audit portion. We haven't done the full what is considered the annual comprehensive financial report, as recommended by GASB or recommended by the generally accepted accounting principles, the GAAP. And so and in the standards by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB. And so so if you've ever looked at the difference between, let's say, the city does an annual comprehensive financial report, and we have only done an audit of our basic financial statements in the past. So with Lisa being here, Lisa's very determined to make sure that as we move forward, that we do an annual comprehensive financial report, or an ACFR, as you'll hear, and then moving forward, starting next year, we will also be sending that to the GASB board, or GFOA. There's way too many acronyms in finance. To GFOA to get certified. So when you hear the city talk about their certification on an annual basis, whenever we're at the mayor's breakfast, and they've gotten it for so many years, we are going to be able to say the same thing as we move forward. So this is just really kind of talks about what's included in that. So it's based on the standards that are identified by the GFOA. And so I wanted to thank Lisa for putting that together. It's been on my list for a while as a goal. And so it gives a clear picture of the district as a whole instead of just the basic financial audit. But
Michelle, can I ask a question? Are you
Yes.
saying that the audit, what we're looking at to approve today is a different type of a product?
No, the audit it's just incorporated into, so the audit is here as it always is, and then the other things that are additions. So if you notice at the beginning of your report, there's a letter of transmittal, so it has a little bit more information in that about kind of what these financial statements mean for the district and how it provides services. So it's a little larger in information that also has the audited financial statements in it. So yeah. So it kind of describes what we're doing as well. So I think it gives a better picture. This is a document that we'll be able to use as we go out and be more transparent, to make sure we're transparent with our residents and all of that. So but with that, I'm gonna actually ask Vicky to go through the audited financials, because that's the most important portion of this thing. And then Lisa, if you have anything to add after Vicky's done, then we can do that.
Right. Well, I was just going to provide a high-level summary here, but and then of course we can go over any questions that the board members have. So we did complete the audit for fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. We have issued an unmodified opinion, which is the cleanest opinion that the district can receive. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide. So congratulations for that. I did want to actually comment. I didn't see the staff report, but I one of the comments I was going to make was basically that finance really has worked really hard to not only greatly improve the reporting. I mean, one thing that's nice with the ACFR reporting is the transmittal letter does provide, it's almost like an annual report where there's much more information than just balance sheet, income statement. It actually discusses highlights of the district, and And just outlooks to future also. Also, the management's discussion and analysis provided this year, that's something that has always been provided as it's required for minimum reporting. But this year's MD&A is dramatically different. It provides a lot more information and I think is very useful. So it's kind of one of those things where if that's the only thing you read in this financial statement, actually you'll get really the gist of how the year went, which I just wanted to comment on just the great improvement in that portion of the reporting. Also, I know that finance really worked hard to clean up the trial balance and the chart of accounts. And so we saw that again with turnover. I think this is actually, Lisa wasn't even here during the actual fiscal year being audited, but definitely saw a great improvement in the accounting, and we had a lot less adjustments and reclassifications that we had to do in order to get to the final product. So yeah, that a great improvement there. Audit wise, very responsive to our inquiries and requests. We had no concerns, no disagreements, no significant adjustments. Overall, audit went well. This year, the district did implement 2 pronouncements from GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So 101 is related to compensated absences. So that's like your accrued vacation, paid time off. As well as GASB 102, which is related to certain risk disclosures. Neither one really had a significant effect on the financial statements, but those were implemented. And with that, so that's the audit, kind of how the audit went and the significant changes in the reporting. Are there any questions on the financial statements or do you want me to go through the statements to just provide highlights?
Maybe helpful to have a few of the highlights, I think, yeah.
All right, then, let me just, so your transmittal letter, starts on page 3, but let's go into the actual. So the independent auditors report, our opinion, starts on page 1. And then the management's discussion and analysis starts on page 5 of the report. I'm not sure, as far as in your agenda packet. But so the MD&A is prepared by district staff. And that provides your fluctuations from year to year. So here on page 13 starts the financial statements. And so with government financial statements, you have kind of 2 sets or 2 views of your financial statements. The statement of net position on page 13 and the statement of activities on page 14. This is what we call our entity-wide statement. So this looks at the district as a whole, also looks at long-term perspective. So this is going to include your long-term assets, like your capital assets, as well as your long-term liabilities, like your accrued vacation, your long-term debt, your net pension liability. And so this year, you'll see you had about 45 million in assets and about 37 million in liabilities. Your net position, which is the difference between your assets, deferred outflows, liabilities, and deferred inflows. At the end of the year, it ends at 2.5 million. Of that amount, 11.6 million of that is net investment in capital assets. So you'll note that actually there is an unrestricted deficit in your net position. If you look on the following page on the
Can you
statement.
explain that?
The unrestricted net deficit, yeah.
So net position is your difference between your assets and liabilities, right? So that's your equity. So the net investment in capital assets is basically your total capital assets less any debt that was issued to pay for those capital assets. So that is So the remaining amount, then you have a restricted portion, you have some restricted cash. And then the remainder amount is unrestricted.
Hmm.
At the end of the year, at June 30, 2025, you do have a negative unrestricted portion. So
That's the 3 million.
yes, that's the 3 million. So so if you think about it, you have a lot of capital assets that, obviously
It includes your long-term, all your long-term debt.
And
Yeah.
Measure E in there too.
Yes, Measure E is in there as well, so.
Yeah, so this is to look at the district as a whole, so not just
Mhm.
general fund, but this
Yeah.
is all of the activities of the district is all consolidated here. When you look at the statement of activities, that's more the income statement side here.
Mhm.
So this is where you'll see, we have the expenses and you'll see it by the different programs. So you had 14.8 million in expenses by programs. And then you have your charges
Mhm.
for services, so that's your program revenues, and then some, a little bit in operating grants and contributions. The big portion of your revenue is really the property taxes, and so that's general revenue.
Mhm.
So three rows up from the bottom is your change in net position. That's basically your net loss for the year. Or expenses, and again, this is looking at long-term perspective. So this is all your capital asset activity. This is your your change in your net pension liability. This is, your debt payments. This is the long term, so you'll see that at the beginning of last year, your net position was 12 million. There was a $1.5 million net loss for the year. So your net position at the end of the year is just under 10.5 million. Any questions on that?
Well, you use the word loss, but does that include monies that we have spent out of our capital fund for capital improvements?
This is consolidated, so this is everything that you've, it's the entire district as a whole.
So it's not just revenue versus expenses, it's also including monies that we have allocated to spend out of our capital improvement fund that
Correct.
contribute to that 1.5 million.
Correct, it's capital activities.
Not loss, that's
Yeah.
a
But it's-
startling word.
Well, it's change in net position,
Yeah.
so that's just the net amount at the end of the year, but again, looking long-term perspective. So your capital activities is in there as well as your long-term debt and net pension liability.
Are
Those
you
are
thinking that change in that position is attributed to the capital improvements budget?
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
things, yeah,
It's a lot of things,
Yeah.
but yes.
that would be one
But
of
it's
the
yeah,
sources.
it's very different. This isn't everything,
Yeah.
not just your general fund, which is what you would usually look at in your operating budget.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of the first set of your view and then starting on page 15 is what we call our fund level. So this is looking at the activities separately. So you have your general fund, senior fund, landscape fund, Measure E debt service fund, and the capital projects fund. Now, these financial statements only look from a short-term perspective. This is kind of how governments budget, right? So this doesn't include your total capital assets as accrued and like your pension
Mhm.
liabilities or your long-term debt. This is only current assets and current liabilities. So on page 15, and then page 17 is the income statement side of it.
Mhm.
So looking at those two, so we'll focus here on the general fund. So general fund, looking on page 17, so you'll see the net, what we call net change in fund balance or the net income, net loss here was close to 1.7 million. Now, this is after also transfers in and out from other funds. And so you ended the year with fund balance of about 2.6 million in the general fund. So you can see that, you know, expenses are higher than revenues for the year. See,
And Michelle, does that include our capital expenditures?
Yes.
okay, and then, and also, yeah, their debt service payments. Okay. Footnotes wise, no significant changes. I can just put some highlights here. Page 27 is where we discussed a new accounting pronouncement. So again, 101 and 102 were what we implemented this year. No significant effect. Also have listed the upcoming pronouncements and 103, 104, and 105. None of them, I don't believe any of them will have a significant impact on the financial statements, especially now with 103, now that there has been improvement in the management's discussion and analysis, it shouldn't require too much to comply with this. Page 28 shows your cash and investments, the bulk of which is cash held with the county. Then you have an amount in lane. And then your restricted portion is the cash held by fiscal agents, so that's about 1.6 million there. Page 29, the capital assets. So this is where you're going to see your capital activity here. That you'll see that there are additions, about 800, let's see, about $1 million in additions. Of course, depreciation, but you'll see the deletions column. This was cleanup that Lisa did on the capital asset activity because there were items in the construction in progress that really didn't fall into capital activity. They were
Or it was done already and hadn't been capitalized.
Okay.
And then the transfers is basically just capitalizing those projects that had been completed. So at the end of the year, you have a net capital assets net of accumulated depreciation of close to 38 million. Pages 30 and 31 disclose your changes in your long-term debt. So you'll see you paid down about 1.3 million on your debt issues. No new debt issues for this year. Page 32, your interfund transactions. It shows that the transfers between general fund and the capital projects fund, as well as general fund and the landscape fund. And then we have a very long pension footnote here that kind of goes on for several pages. At the end of the year, the net pension liability is at 6.6 million.
Yeah.
And I'll show you when we get into the supplementary information, the change from year to year, so that you can kind of have a comparison to prior years. Let's see. What else here? Okay, page 43 shows your budget comparison for the general fund. And so you'll see the revenues fell short of about 890,000 and the expenditures were over by the 550,000. Transfers, we don't have budget amounts there, but this basically just shows you your budget to actual. Pages 44 and 45, this is your required supplementary information related to the pension plan. And so this shows you 10 years of data. What I like to show on page 44, bottom right corner is the 2024. That's where you can see the 6.6 million net pension liability. It actually went down from prior year. Prior year was 6.8 million. But you'll see there were some wild fluctuations between 2019, 2020, and 2021. So finally, these last 3 years, they kind of smoothed out.
This is just simply based on, economic conditions, I guess, at that time.
Yeah, and so it's based on basically rate of return. So it goes up and down. The goal is kind of around where we're at. So and it's actually gonna look a lot better the next couple of years. Based on, yeah, it's a 2-year lag. And so so basically it's gonna go down again and then it's gonna go back up. And so with this current, it just takes a couple of years. So
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen a presentation by PERS that it's gonna, our next year, it's definitely, our pension liability will go down, but yeah, it's a couple of years behind.
and a big factor also is just the what they're using as the discount rate as well. One of the tables I do like to point out on page 36 is like the 6.6 million calculated is using a 6.9% discount rate. If they decrease that to 5.9%, your net pension liability would go up to 10 million. If they increase that rate, it would go down to 3.8 million. So just that 1% factor changes the whole calculation. So it's one of those, people ask me, what's the real number? I'm like, I have no crystal ball here. Okay, so
Ask me in 20 years.
I'm like, it's not really a real number. So
Yeah.
like if we were to pay all of that, if we had $6.6 million, we pay it off, then at the end of next year, we would owe again. So that just is the way that is.
Any questions or I'm not sure if Lisa wants to add anything or?
Thank you so much, Vicky. Yes, Vicky pretty much covered all the points of the audit act for reporting. One of the items I would like to point out on page 43, the budgetary comparisons schedule. So the issue of the total revenue appearing to be over budget by 889,000. This is really a presentation issue because the district budgets transfers from LNL number 6 district in revenues. However, it's actually a transfer in revenue. So the over budget that you see of 889,000 is really should be taken into consideration the transfer in revenue from LNL number 6, which was budgeted as a.
Well, do we need another line item then?
It is, it's down there. It says transfers in 666.
Right, but do we need it up above?
This is how the accounting happens for in and out. So so we budget it there. We're gonna change our budgeting side to have it transfers in on the budget side, so it will read a little better in the future. So thank you for pointing that out.
So the actual revenue shortage is 223,000 and below the budget. So that's pretty much it.
Any questions of Vicky? Comments, questions?
Yeah.
I'll make one just on behalf of myself. My fellow budget committee member may have a different viewpoint, I don't know, but in the past, we have praised your company because of the quality of the audit that you presented and the readability of it, the understandability of it. What I'm troubled with is the lateness of it. We had expected it in November. We're having some significant discussions about budget issues, which is the next item on our agenda this evening, which was, I think, severely complicated by the lateness of this audit coming to us because we didn't have a fund balance to work from. And so I just want to let you know how disappointed we are in the lateness of it. Deeply disappointed in the lateness of it. And I think staff is extremely frustrated with the inability to really have some, clear budgeting direction here because of that. So I just wanted to share that with you. That's an issue with us. Okay. Is there any reason that you can think of that we expected in November, we didn't get until March?
Well, definitely, I mean, well, with some transitions, there was cleanup that needed to be done, but I will take ownership for the lateness for this year, just for personal reasons. I had surgery and had it just that felt.
Deprived person.
Yeah, no, and so no, and then that is not the district's,
Right.
that
Your burden's
that's on
on
me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. But no, all I can say is we will do better if we're provided the opportunity. Definitely. I think we'd be happy to work with staff on getting the timeliness completed earlier. But there was a lot of cleanup that needed to be done from the just issues with the past 2 years of financials. I think just with the county changing their software, that definitely put some of the closing behind in the previous year, and that kind of set us back. But again, we should have been completed in December. I don't think we could have been completed in November this year, just for this go round, but we should have been completed in December.
It's interesting you talk about a 2-year cycle because that's kind of the period of time in which, as we look back, we're really struggling with, some of the understanding that we wished we'd had earlier on. So, it is a 2-year problem that we have been struggling with here.
And 23-24, that definitely was more, we were not provided with things timely.
Yeah.
Because I think there were difficulties in closing the books.
Yeah. So I just want to point out a couple of things in the narrative, the preamble.
Yep.
So for example, on page little Roman 3, there was discussion about us serving the city of Concord, an unincorporated community. Well, that's the last paragraph.
So the last paragraph is our community partners. So these are
This says the service area.
on page, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on page 4. On page 3.
Yeah, right.
Includes a service area, includes city of Pleasant Hill. Yeah, we'll make that change. It's not, we don't even have any unincorporated Concord, so we have unincorporated. We have some portions of the city of Lafayette and unincorporated community. Yes, we do have Walden and Contra Costa and Release Valley, so those are all in our district. But yes,
I don't think we've ever referred to them that way before. As sort of like neighborhoods somehow.
Yeah, I think that
unincorporated portions.
I think this came from the well, I don't know where the city of Concord came from, but where did you pull that from?
From district's website.
From the website. Okay. Like, where'd you pull that from? From the website? Okay.
And where did the website pull from?
Well, the problem with the MS, I know Jen will use the MSR, the municipal service review, so that LAFCO does for us, that states our service area. So I think that's where that came from. And I think we do have some unincorporated, what might be considered unincorporated Concord area. So because like where Walnut Creek Manor is, a little further back, because we go all the way to Bancroft, and so yeah, so I think there might be, but I'll have to look, but I will double check it. We can make that change.
Put that then. And then the various co-sponsor groups, so there's the partnership.
Yeah.
Then later in that paragraph, there's co-sponsorship groups that many of them are no longer partners, much less maybe.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, we'll take a look at that.
Um,
I missed that.
So I think the three bullets on page 5 were the things that got most of my attention. The district's net position decreased 1.5 million or 12.8%. During the year, government-wide revenues totaled 13.3 million, while expenses totaled 14.8. The district's net position totaled 10 million on June. And went from there. The general fund reported a decrease in fund balance. As a board member, that's information that is extremely important to me. It just lays it out in bullet point here that as we get ready to do budgeting, I think we as a board are going to keep those numbers clearly in the viewfinder. Again, I realize we've had some issues with information being brought to staff and being brought to the board. You know, it's been a 2-year ride. Now we need to.
Yes, no, and
I know you
yeah.
already are. What's our next agenda item?
We are on top of that, yes, and you know, and it's very difficult, we're doing mid-year budget now, right, in beginning of March, and you know, we just got our audited financials, so, you know, so yes, so we are behind the 8 ball, but luckily, we now have the information moving forward. Lisa is very thorough, and on top of it, so, we will have the information, it will be provided to us in a more timely manner, so.
If I'd had that
I believe we're on
information in
that.
December, it would have been really helpful. Yeah.
Yes, it would have been very helpful. I mean, we did have, which we'll talk about in our next agenda item. I mean, we did have some preliminary, we knew we were over budget, you know, but we can talk about that in our next agenda item. But yes, this is why it's extremely important for us to get it done. You know, I know we're shooting for, you know, by the end of November at the latest next year, so.
Thank you. Thank you for my comments. You're listening to my comments, I suppose. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Since I'm on the budget and finance committee also with Sandy Bernardo, I echo the concerns. We've been asking and wondering and I'm glad things are okay, but I think going forward and what we have to look at is, are we going to receive the communication that we need to get things in a timely manner? Because that was such an issue for us. And we'd ask questions and we weren't getting answers and it was very frustrating. So I'm hopeful that going forward, you know, we will see the communication that we need from both sides. So that we can get things going, because we're gonna be, like she said, we're gonna be doing the mid-year, we're preparing for the budget already, coming up soon, and I like this format, and I like the numbers that we under the financial highlights, and I think all that's great information. And when we get to our next item, you know, we'll be talking more about that, but a response indicating that we need more time to do something is, you know, we need to have that response. We need to have that communication, because if we don't, it's just not gonna work.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
But thank you very much. And I liked what you did going through this report. I had gone through it and highlighted, so I was adding some more that I didn't catch, but that it was easy to read from the standpoint of the front end part that the district did, and then segueing into the actual audit report, which this is a new format for us. And I think it's gonna serve us well in the future. That's all I have.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, you know, the comments from Director Vincent and Director Donato about the timeliness of the report. And I think, you know, this may be being, you know, this is what, the third time that you prepared these, I think. Second?
Yeah, third.
Yeah, so I imagine, you know, some of this is, you know, kind of developing a little bit of a understanding and cadence and, you know, what needs to be included in these reports. So I'd imagine that going forward, you know, some of those things will be resolved. So But yeah, it was a very comprehensive report. I'm glad that we're, now complying with the new GASB reporting. So we can, have that certificate of the, to tell our community about the transparency of our accounting. So thank you for your report and walking us through it. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
If nothing else, then
We need to accept the report.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it is an action item. I guess with that, I will take any, motions in terms of taking this report and accepting it.
I'll move to accept the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, as presented by the district's independent auditors.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Now we can move on to item 6.2, which is looking at approving the fiscal year 2025-2026 mid-year budget report, including recommendations for amending the fiscal years 25-26 budget. So
Attached is the mid-year budget, recommended mid-year budget adjustments and looking at our mid-year budget report. On the good news front is that at mid-year, if you look at our financial statements, we have a surplus at mid-year of almost about $1.5 million. So that is that we are in a good position at this point in time on actuals as of mid-year. If you recall, in November, Lisa brought the unaudited 24-25 year end to the board. At that time, we found out, the board found out at the same time I did, that we had a deficit for the year in spending. Some of that was revenue, some of that was overspending in some of our departments. And so at that time, I told the board, there were a number of identified reasons, but I told the board that at mid-year we would attempt to turn the tide as much as we could and make some adjustments, at least for the last 6 months, to try to make some of that up, knowing full well that we weren't going to make it all up at this time, right? So we're going to need to focus a lot of the kind of the catch up in our second year of our 2-year budget when we amend that coming up, but we did what we could for mid-year. And so in the mid-year, we have the budgeted mid-year, which included what we thought was at the time of the beginning fund balance and expenditures and revenues. And then you'll also see now on the second page of third page of the report, the actual fund balance that we ended the year with, which was 2.5 million. And so we, so that's where we ended the year. And so we looked at, operating revenues and expenditures. There is some recommendations to increase some revenues based on what we have already collected and have in deferred revenue, and are anticipating in the second half of the year to exceed. Some of those being KidStop, because they have almost doubled their enrollment. We have enrollments changes at the teen center as well as we're expecting. We have already we're close to meeting our revenue goal already with the county with our taxes. So we anticipate the last quarter of bringing in about $350,000 additional dollars for that. So what that means is that we have about a $508,000 increase in revenue that we are anticipating, and then but we also identified a number of things that we needed to adjust in on the expenses side, so we didn't go over expenditures. Some of them being so we didn't budget last year, and apparently it was the last couple of years actually when I looked at the budget, the fees for our credit cards. So what happens is that when we take a credit card payment, it goes into the bank, and so that goes into the bank, and then the credit card company basically takes their percentage, right? So that reconciliation never got into the expense side, right? So it was just taken as revenue. So Lisa identified that. We now have those in the first half of the year, and so in the second half of the year, we're anticipating it'll be about the same. And percentage wise, so those include that. We have eliminated the human resources program manager position, which was a 9-month position, and a couple of other things. We've eliminated a part-time position, and so there are a couple of things. Some of them, Lisa, we did have to move. So there were some expenses the first half of the year that got charged to capital that really weren't capitalizable. So some of those being kind of they were actually maintenance and not capital. So we moved those back into the operating budget. So there was some cleanup there as well. So all in told, it basically when we look at the kind of the difference, we originally with our debt service, we were anticipating about a $44,000. Almost $45,000 surplus, and now we're guessing about $135,000. I still think that's conservative, based on the kid stop numbers, and kind of looking at for summer. But all in all, we are going to end in the black, which is a good thing. But just to kind of let everyone know, our fund balance is not where we need it to be, and so. We're going to look at, like I said, the best place we're going to be able to make that up is in the budget year we haven't started, right? Mm-hmm. So that is the year that we have to look at definitely curbing expenditures. So that will be a conversation for another day. But we need to get through this budget year, and I'd like to get through this budget year where we can make sure that we are in the black. And so with that, I'll take any questions. It's a fairly lengthy report. We did go to the Budget and Finance Committee. They asked for a couple of changes. Since the time we went to the Budget and Finance Committee, we also got the audited numbers. So I know that I'm sure the Budget and Finance Committee went, wait, those aren't numbers we saw, because we got the budgeted numbers, so or the audited numbers. So that is where that is. But with that, I'll take any questions.
I have a general question about why we wouldn't use the remaining months of this fiscal year, to really try to significantly curb expenditures. Why are we waiting until July to kind of start that process?
We are. So I have positions that we're not filling, and so I just didn't show them in like taking them out of the expenditures yet, because I'm not quite sure exactly where that's going to end up. But we're doing everything we can. Staff is trying to save dollars everywhere they can. But we are coming into the summer season, so I have to hire swim instructors and camp counselors, right? So so we're definitely going to have some savings on on the full-time positions that have been open, but we are coming into our most expensive time, and so I do believe we're going to end up better than this, but I want to be conservative, and so this is kind of where we are at this point in time.
We were told, the board was told at one point that we have received all of the tax money that we expected for this year.
All of the secured, we had received we received the secured tax dollars that the county estimates for us, and so we had received that. We haven't received unsecured, and we haven't received any redevelopment or their true up, and so So I looked at the last like 4 years of what we usually get from the county in during the quarter to understand, but yes. Lisa said we got the secured taxes, which we have, but we haven't got the unsecured or the redevelopments or any of those things yet. So it's an important question.
Clear the
I
record.
think you had a question, I have a question too, but.
No, go ahead.
I was, a little bit sort of hung up on the non-operating debt service payments kind of looked at in the budget forecast. I don't know if you.
What do you mean?
It just said, in the report that there, was the budget forecast taking in some of the debt service payments into consideration.
So the number, you mean when we looked in November?
Yeah.
What I said, so we concentrated only on the operating budget in November, and we looked at the operating budget. So the operating budget as a whole came in $200,000 over budget. That did not include the debt service payment, which we made. So we were really close to $600,000 in the hole.
I got you.
So that's what I meant about, but we
So
can't
now
change the debt
that.
service.
Yeah,
Like we have to pay the
That's
debt,
right, yeah.
which we've already paid. So the debt service has been paid.
but
So-
going forward, it's now considered as.
Well, it was always
It was
considered. It was always considered. It just, we were talking at the time about the operating budget. And so, but yes, so our net loss when you put the debt service payment in there was about $600,000 last year.
So with the numbers I'm seeing here, however, is that this bottom line includes the debt service.
It does.
So
Okay.
where before it was coming out of retained earnings or whatever you want to call it, a general fund, as opposed to from our revenue stream,
Right.
which is sort of where we expected it was always coming from. A couple of years it's been coming from a different source, and that's
That was part of what.
that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
That was part of the problem, yes. Part of the problem was that it was coming out of fund balance.
Mhm.
And that wasn't highlighted for us.
That's unsustainable.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we eat into what is considered our kind of savings, so.
Mhm.
And you'll see on here, so this is your entire thing, and you'll see, that it includes a debt service payment. It includes the reserve of $500,000, which you have by policy, and it includes the budgeted CIP projects, so.
Other questions?
No, I, considering what we talked about at our last meeting, but then getting the audit, this, when I started reading it, I thought, okay, but I think you made it clear that these numbers were, some of these numbers are different because of what we received from the audit. But the table 1 and 1A gives both scenarios that we wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same table, it's
Same
just
thing,
your
but-
surplus and deficit is moved
Right.
up. In your right under your operating instead of, instead of your operating and then all of the other things that
Yeah.
come under that.
Yeah.
That isn't technically part of your operating, so we showed it both ways,
Nice.
but it's the same numbers.
Mhm.
So as we move into our next year's budget, I think there will be a lot of work for us in terms of overseeing the recommendations that staff is making. Paying attention to the bottom line, what our fund balance is and how it has been reduced so significantly, perhaps without us being aware of it. And I know Michelle is working very hard, not only to make sure we're in the black, but also to try to recoup some of the losses that we experienced previously. So hats off to staff for paying attention to that as well. Because that fund balance, I think we just really need to get back up. And another thing I think we'll be looking at and making recommendations to the board based on staff's recommendations as well will be how much we spend in capital projects next year.
Yes,
We might need to rethink some of our.
we've gotten a lot done in the last couple of years, but
Yeah.
we may need to take a break.
Well, and I recall having read as well that it didn't kind of consider the budget forecast with what we had recently done in terms of increasing the rental rates.
Yeah, we did not include that because most of our rentals
for
are
a
already
year.
are already under contract.
Yeah.
And so anything we get is just gonna
It's
be
good
bonus,
the next time.
right? So we did not factor in the 5% at all, so.
To me, this reporting is gonna make it a lot easier to look at it and
Mhm.
be on track and see where things need.
Yeah, and
need to
Lisa
go
did
forward.
a great job with the report in pulling together the general fund summary and, you know, giving us a picture of what that looks like. And so this report you will continue to get, and we will make sure that you have that information. It's clear, and not buried somewhere else, and not just a percentage of what cash we have, so.
Okay. Other comments, questions? No? Well, I guess if there's nothing else, then we can go ahead and look to approve this fiscal year 2025-2026 mid-year budget update. Entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 mid-year budget report, including recommendations amending the fiscal year 2025-26 budget.
Second,
All in favor?
I
Okay.
thank you, both of you, for all the work.
Yeah.
I know this has
Mhm.
not been easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, move on to item 7, which is you know, reports from committee chairs and
Don't have,
new dates, none.
no, that's okay.
Scheduled? Okay,
You got it.
all right. Well, let's go on to board announcements and requests of staff. Yeah, go ahead.
I really was sorry to miss the parade, but I may put you and I in their picture. I can do that.
Photoshop.
I'll work on that. I did go to the March 1st presentation at Rogers Ranch. It was the naturalist Michael Marciano.
Mhm.
And this one had to do with wildflowers in Mount Diablo in the area. It was well attended and it was very well done. You know, we're gonna try and put some of his other presentations on our calendar. It's also another opportunity to just go out there and see the ranch and how nice it is. And I know they've got an event coming up, I think in April. April 11th is the.
Yeah, they have, I think that's their
Yeah,
plan sale, yeah.
April 11th, yeah. That's all I have.
Yeah, no, just kudos again to the team for all the work done at the Pleasant Oaks and. Yeah, I mean, back-to-back years of sunshine. I mean, a parade where I was actually in a t-shirt by the end of the thing. I mean, it's unheard of. So just really neat to showcase, you know, what we as a district provide the girls and boys in the community and opportunity to play sports. It was just an awesome day all around. And, yeah, great job, everybody.
It was a wonderful day. Thank you for your leadership and bringing the banner or I guess the banner was provided by Jen, but you brought it and we carried it and.
I guess we discovered it.
They were supposed to be placed by PHBA on your vehicles, but. So.
Well, our fearless leader here actually got some zip ties and made sure it was mounted near the stand.
Yeah.
Good visibility.
It was for great visibility, yes. It was a beautiful day. I think it's the first time I haven't actually seen you walk by. I get
Yeah.
a picture of you every year. And
It's funny, because, you know, I'm not up there with all of you, and then I'm not up there with my fellow commissioners, and so there were like a few people that were like, hey, we missed you on opening day. Like, oh, it was out there.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many times you're counting heads of kids. Do we have 12? Yes.
Yeah, I had a great time at the parade. Certainly awesome to see that many, you know, kids. You know, I turn around at Santa Barbara and take a look back and just see the sea of kids as you're kind of going up the hill. And it just goes all the way back towards, you know, Boyd. It's impressive to see that many, you know, kids. I'm so glad that we're able to accommodate all of them. You know, happy with the turnout at the parade and that, you know, they kind of marched along with the procedure pretty quick so they can get all the kids out in the field. I know they're itching to play right away. looking forward to, some of the upcoming activities that we've got with the underwater egg hunt and the traditional egg hunt. So also I wanted to say, people came to me after the State of the District address that I had given and mentioned, things about Kid Stop and just, appreciations, as I typically give for people. I would say that, the first person I had met actually with the district was Danny Martinez. As I was enrolling my daughter for a Kid Stop program at Gregory Gardens. And the conversations I had with people at the State of the District address, they said, oh, our kids had gone there and it was just such a wonderful experience for their children. And I wanted to appreciate, Danny Martinez and all of the folks at Kid Stop for the work that they do in really being able to, influence the children's lives in many ways. I know from personal experience, my daughter and my son, say, well, we're looking to go back and say hello to all the people that they had met there and the relationships formed. I mean, those are the types of experiences that are just valuable. And I think that's, part of what we do is not just, provide these facilities and amenities for people, but really generate the memories, that go with them. So, in closing today, I'd like to appreciate Danny Martinez, and I know I've got a lot of appreciations to get through, so extending that to, not just Danny Martinez, but a lot of the people at the Kid Stop group, so. Thank you, and with that, we'll adjourn, it's 8 o'clock.